This is the Bleav in Pro Wrestling podcast. Here's Rick Ucchino and SP3 on the Bleav Podcast Network.
What is going on, good people? Good Friday afternoon. We made it. It is the end of the week. We are here. It is Friday afternoon, and we are live here on Bleav in Pro Wrestling. Happy December. Can you believe it's December already? The Royal Rumble is, can you feel it, SP3? It's just on the horizon. It's the next premium live event. We're still 8 weeks away, but holy crap, we get to talk about like WrestleMania season now. Like it's absolutely insane. And we already got big news coming out about the Royal Rumble. God bless Dave Meltzer with his timely reporting today for the Wrestling Observer. Talking about The Rock. Heavily rumored that he could be at WrestleMania, may also be at the Royal Rumble. We got news on CM Punk and his contract situation. William Regal, where the hell is he going? We thought 1 week, hey, he's set up nice and fat with MJF. We're going to get a nice long run with them. Apparently not going to happen, SP3. Apparently William Regal might be done in AEW. And that has led some backstage to question Tony Khan's booking from Full Gear. More superstars are reportedly on their way back to WWE. One for sure anyway. The others I'm speculating on. We'll dive into all that. We got a new match concept for Bray Wyatt. We got a Royal Rumble opponent apparently for Ronda Rousey, which may or may not mean something as far as Charlotte Flair's return to the company. Lot to dive in today, SP3. How you doing this afternoon?
It's Friday. The weekend is upon us. It's been another busy week of wrestling news. One news about someone going back to WWE from AEW. Someone coming back. Everybody's going back to WWE. That should be the name of the show. It seems like all the topics, the main topics is about people going back to WWE from Hollywood, from AEW, and from the beyond.
Dude, this is like, if the wrestling world the last 2 years, it's basically been like a boomerang throw. Like it was Vince McMahon chucking the damn thing, and here goes all these superstars over to AEW. Now it's swinging back around, and everybody's coming back, and Papa H is about to catch the throw that Vince McMahon had. That's basically what the world of professional wrestling has been like for 2 years now. It's absolutely insane. But you know what? You know who wins in this situation? We do, because we get stuff to talk about. That's all I ask for. Give me interesting things to dive into, and I am a happy guy. We're going to get into all of it. What's going on, Santo? We appreciate you guys, everybody joining in on the chat. If you got questions, comments, get them in. We'll try to get to as many of them as possible. Also, do us a favor while you are here. Hit the thumbs up button. Really helps drive up our audience. You have no earthly idea. And if you're new to the show, you like what you hear, please hit the subscribe button. We're here 2 days a week, every Tuesday at 2:15. And I want to try to do this live show on Friday, but scheduling is what it is. We'll try to do it as much as possible. Later on in the week, it's a little difficult. SP3 works for like 18 publications. I got 5 different jobs. Timing is difficult, but we try to get 2 shows in a week as much as we possibly can. Plus, Lost in the Mid-Card Mondays at 7. Make sure to check that out. Our unofficial Raw pregame show with Jeremy and Matt, so make sure to check that out. Before we get into everything, got to thank our friends over at BetOnline. Basketball season's in full swing. We're closing in on NFL playoffs already. My God. BetOnline is your number one source for all your sports betting needs, whether it is basketball, NBA, NHL, MMA, tennis, boxing, golf. They got wrestling on there too. You'll find the latest odds, team matchup information, player news, game trends. It is all there at BetOnline. And as the continued source for all your sports wagering information, BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and giveaways all season long. Go to betonline.ag to join. Receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BLEAV to get those rewards. That is BLEAV. BetOnline, where the game starts. What is going on, Ace and Queen and everybody else who's joining us here in the chat. Thank you guys so much for joining us as always. SP3, earlier on in this week, we had a conversation about the Royal Rumble stemming on what they could possibly do this year with the rumored headline main event being at WrestleMania, The Rock and Roman Reigns. Now, when it comes to The Rock, this is never a guarantee that he could possibly be at one show, let alone several shows, because his schedule is absolutely insane. He's one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. So we dive through a couple ideas. If you want to take a listen to that, our old show is up there right now from earlier in the week. You can check that out. But Wrestling Observer came out today with the possibility. Now, let me stress that. The possibility that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson could be a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble. The idea would be to have him enter at number 30, win the whole damn thing, and then go on to challenge Roman Reigns for the WWE Universal Championship at WrestleMania 39, presumably in the main event of night 2. SP3, this was called a pie in the sky possibility, but they're at least discussing it, which tells me one thing. They got no idea what to do with the Royal Rumble if The Rock can't show up and do it.
Yes, pretty much. That's it. That one. That's the one. That's the one right there. They have no idea what they're gonna do with the Royal Rumble unless The Rock can work it. Because regardless of anything, if The Rock can work WrestleMania 39, it's The Rock versus Roman Reigns for the undisputed Universal Championship. So it's just about finagling their way through the Royal Rumble. And if anybody says, oh, it's just a pie in the sky, oh, it's not really going to happen, they're going to use the Royal Rumble to put over someone new, outside of Drew McIntyre in 2020, when was the last time they did that? They literally used the Royal Rumble to fit into their plan of WrestleMania. If someone is gonna get, they have not used the Royal Rumble to propel someone to the next level outside of Drew McIntyre when it comes to this men's Royal Rumble.
They should have in 2018. They should have in 2018.
You can bring up Seth Rollins in 2019, but Seth was already on the trajectory there. That was just something to get him to WrestleMania. It didn't bring him to the next level. I said, this is why I'm specifying. Men's Royal Rumble. Bianca Belair was the last one in regards to Royal Rumble in general. But when it comes to the men's Royal Rumble, it's Drew McIntyre and then it's everybody else. Seth, it was kind of just a consolation prize because he was already on the trajectory. And anyway, Seth was the second option because Roman got leukemia. 2018, Shinsuke Nakamura to give the fans something that they wanted and then ruin it. 2017, Randy Orton. 2016, Triple H. 2015, Roman Reigns, one of the worst Royal Rumbles of all time. 2014, Batista. 2013, John Cena. We are going on a full decade, and there's been one men's Royal Rumble winner that actually needed it and actually got a win that propelled them and made them feel like a WrestleMania main eventer, even if they weren't already. There's been a lot of guys that they just shoehorn there, and then last year was kind of like this earlier in January looks like the culmination of it, where they did it with both Royal Rumbles, where neither winner really needed that win to get to WrestleMania, to get to the matches that they were in. Brock didn't need to win the Royal Rumble to get there. Definitely Ronda didn't need the Royal Rumble to get to face Charlotte, but they did what they did. And now we're in a place where I think that it's a bigger possibility than a lot of people will put out there, that the only way we get a winner of the Royal Rumble that will face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania is if The Rock wins it.
I agree with you. And I'm kind of with Santo on this. Santo saying, I don't like that The Rock enters at 30 and wins it. It would be a waste of a Rumble for me. I'm not saying it would be a waste of a Rumble. I think the live crowd in San Antonio would absolutely eat that up. They would love every moment of it. It's still The Rock, right? But I wrote about this for Cage Side Seats today. There is something about a semi-retired guy who has not been in a fit, like an actual match. You can count that thing that he did with Eric Rowan if you want to, but his last actual match came in 2013. You bring him in, you put him over all your current top superstars, and then have him go on to face Roman Reigns and lose, thus furthering the gap between Roman and the rest of the locker room, right as it is right now. That's Vince McMahon creative booking 101. That's straight out of his playbook.
I'll be honest with you. It doesn't further the gap. The gap is there. There's no furthering of it. There's a huge gap between Roman Reigns and everybody else. It doesn't really further the gap. It just really solidifies it in the Triple H regime.
Yeah, and that's where I would hope that Triple H would be different and break new ground. But again, we're falling into the same trap that Vince was in last year. Now, Vince was fully created by himself. Vince decided he wanted to have this most stupendous bullshit main event of title for title, Brock and Roman. So he takes the belt off of Brock to put it on Lashley so Brock can win the Royal Rumble. Then Brock puts himself in Elimination Chamber, wins the WWE Championship without Lashley even being in the damn match. And then, oh, hey, look, champion versus champion. We don't have to worry about the Royal Rumble guy, which is the mentality that I hate. Is that the Royal Rumble is supposed to be, and it is one of your most iconic and beloved matches in wrestling history, in WWE history. People love the Royal Rumble. This is one of the events. People look forward to the Royal Rumble more than they look forward to WrestleMania some years, right? This is a huge match. It shouldn't be looked at as an obstacle. And right now, when you try to book a match like Rock versus Roman Reigns for the championship, if you can only get Rock on one show, you have now turned the Royal Rumble into an obstacle that you have to overcome. You brought up the idea of, well, let's have Cody win it and then challenge for the United States Championship. I fucking hate that. I absolutely loathe it. But I do appreciate the outside the box thinking, which is why my consideration is, why not pull the Charlotte Flair 2020? When she won the Royal Rumble, what did she end up doing that year? She ended up challenging for the NXT Women's Championship against Rhea Ripley. Why?
Yeah, that turned out great.
I'm not saying that, but that's not what I'm saying. All right. Because if you think about it, what main roster superstar would win the Royal Rumble and go, screw Roman Reigns, I want Braun Breaker? Why not just do something you haven't done? Why not have like a young up-and-coming stud like Carmelo Hayes win the Royal Rumble and challenge Braun Breaker and have that match be at WrestleMania? That could be far and away from the worst thing that they could possibly do in this situation.
So you see, my suggestion was something that I think they would do. It's not something that I want them to do. It's not something that
I'm not trying to put that in the ether, SP3. I don't even want that to be a thought.
Something that they could do. They are not going to have an NXT talent win the Royal Rumble. That's not how they solve this solution. And I don't think that's the best solution either, because they have dumbed down. If this was 4 or 5 years ago, yeah, that's a great idea, because NXT felt like it was on the same level as the main roster. It does not anymore. So you're talking about dumbing down or lessening the current roster, having an NXT person come up to the main roster and win the Royal Rumble, that dumbs down the entire whole roster because of how they have created this new stigma around NXT as lesser than. So someone that's lesser than gets called up to the main roster on their first night and beats all the top stars, and then decides, no, I'm not going to verse Roman Reigns, the guy that the gap is between everybody. I'm going after the little developmental title. No, that's not a good solution either. That's not I specified when I said my suggestion, it was not a good suggestion, and I compared it to other bad things that they have done.
The only other option you have, if you can't get The Rock, and if you don't want to go the NXT title route, which is your only world championship, is, and this is an idea that's been floated out there, and I think you even said it months ago at this point, is you have Roman defend one title on night one, and he defends the second title on night two against The Rock. But I don't think that they would do that, because why on God's green earth would you risk anything happening to Roman Reigns on night one? Freak accident, anything. That's a health risk. That's an insurance risk right there. Is if, God forbid, Roman Reigns tweaks an ankle or anything happens. It's wrestling. Shit happens. He gets hurt on night one and can't go night two against The Rock. You're screwed. So I don't even think that they would even risk doing that. So really, your only option is to find a way to split the titles between now and Mania.
didn't put on my Vince booking hat for that one. I put on my Gato booking hat because this is what Gato does with Okada. That's what he did with a lot of the 2-night Wrestle Kingdoms. You have Okada wrestle in both of them. Both are going to be a great match. Earlier this year in January, Okada wrestled Shingo Takagi in a fantastic main event, then turned around and had one of the best matches of the year against Will Ospreay. So if you have created this huge gap between one star and the rest of the company, that's the one star that needs to main event both nights of WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So I think if Cody can wrestle a match with a torn bicep or torn tricep, he can wrestle a match and not hurt Roman Reigns. So that's what if I'm booking WrestleMania, Roman Reigns needs to headline both nights because the other options aren't really that appeasing. The matches that seem like it's going to be for the women's championship with Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley, that would be a huge statement, but it doesn't feel really worthy of a WrestleMania main event at this point right now. Right. Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey 3 years ago felt like a WrestleMania main event, but 3 years later, and after the year Ronda Rousey has had, that doesn't feel like a main event of WrestleMania. So yes, I think the best option for WWE is having Roman Reigns headline both nights, have Cody win the Royal Rumble, have Cody versus Roman for the Undisputed Universal title on night 1, and night 2 can either be for the championship or not, still Roman and Rock will headline.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. This is Triple H's first big test. Like, we have been in the honeymoon, tectonic plate, shifting, everything is constantly changing, renewed energy, morale's great. There's a lot up in the air. Everything hasn't been great, but it has been better. This is his first big test, is this WrestleMania season, and it starts with what he does at the Royal Rumble. Ace asking, do y'all think the Royal Rumble 2023 will be better than this past Royal Rumble? If you're asking about the men's match, yeah, because that's not a high bar. If you're talking about the pay-per-view as a whole, yeah, once again, because it's not a high bar. I mean, if you
100%, let's really think about this year, Ace, and everybody watching.
Yeah,
if you watch all of wrestling, which I do, and I get this told a lot. So I've watched a lot of wrestling in 2022. The Royal Rumble, spoiler alert, was the worst show of the year.
Yeah,
in all of wrestling. AEW did not put on a major show worse than that. New Japan, Impact Wrestling, even GCW, and they've had some bad shows too. But I would say only NWA have put on shows as bad as the Royal Rumble. That's it.
Yeah, you had a Universal Championship match that ended in a disqualification. You had the WWE Championship match that ended in an extremely dodgy finish with Roman Reigns costing Brock Lesnar the championship. You had your SmackDown Women's Champion didn't even have a match. She was put into the Royal Rumble instead because she didn't have an opponent. Sasha Banks was unceremoniously just chucked from the Royal Rumble by Queen Zelina after 8 minutes. She was the third person eliminated from the match. You had all of the bullshit backstage going on with Shane McMahon. Bad Bunny was like your one and only legitimate surprise. And then Brock Lesnar won the freaking Royal Rumble. That show was terrible. It was trash. That was supposed to be my first Royal Rumble in person. And I am so happy that I ended up not being able to go because I would have been pissed had I spent money on that trip. That show was straight trash. So Triple H has the advantage here. He don't have to try very hard to beat last year's Royal Rumble. It was absolute, utter garbage.
He just has to have a great match with a clean finish. And he will exceed the bar of 2022's Royal Rumble. 2022's Royal Rumble. I now you're making me think of a list. Now I want to do a list of the worst Royal Rumbles because I think that might be up there. 1993, 2022.
The best thing on the show, like legitimate. God, even the bad juju even spread to the performers. Like Kofi Kingston botching his entire entrance and his.
There was 2 good things. There was 3 good things on the show. It was Becky and Doudrop. They had a good matchup. It was Roman and Seth until the finish, and the post match was pretty good as well, with Roman doing the chair spot and Sasha Banks doing a split. That was the 3 good things about Royal Rumble 2022.
Like, seriously, when Sasha Banks doing splits in a Sailor Moon outfit is like a top 3 moment of the entire show, that's a problem. That's a problem. That show sucked. So no, Ace, if the Royal Rumble this year is somehow worse than it was last year, Triple H has failed miserably his first test. We're going to dive around here these next few segments from AEW to WWE because a lot of it's actually intertwined here. SP3, let's start with the latest on CM Punk. He is still under contract with AEW at this point in time, but that's on AEW's end. According to the Wrestling Observer today, CM Punk is reportedly ready to move on to his next project. And the wording here is interesting to me because I would think any project outside of a wrestling ring that he could do right now, he would be able to do anyway. We have seen him do some MMA commentary and things of that nature. So I read into this and go, CM Punk's ready to move on to his next project. AEW wants to hold on to him. All right, maybe CM Punk has some other plans in mind once he's healthy, and otherwise, what's the point in hanging on to CM Punk if you're AEW, unless you're hoping to mend some fences once he's healthy?
I don't even know if it's about mending the fences. It's about playing keep away. You don't want to give one of the biggest draws in wrestling to get, regardless of how you feel about him and how he handled the situation at All Out. You can't deny that CM Punk is still a draw in this business, and you're basically giving them the biggest draw in your company's history during the most, like you said, the most important time of this new regime. If this was next year's WrestleMania, yeah, just let them go. But you're giving them your biggest draw in your company's history during the first WrestleMania of this new regime. That's like gift wrapping them success.
I know it's not possible because there's no way he's going to be healthy in time. But man, could you imagine a scenario where CM Punk showed up, won the Royal Rumble, and then you like ended up with a triple threat match of Roman, Rock, and Punk at WrestleMania?
It's like picking up for WrestleMania 29 at 39. CM Punk, you won your triple threat main event. Here you go. That's what Triple H, who's always had a great relationship with CM Punk. That's what he's gonna do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I'm just saying it would be incredible. Yeah, I think this is absolutely keep away at this point. It's extending out, the non-compete, keeping him out of sight, out of mind might not be the best thing going, even though that doesn't necessarily work. It is CM Punk. The man got CM Punk chance for 7 years, wasn't even trying to get back into pro wrestling. So fans aren't going to forget. He's still going to be valuable if and when his release comes. It's just interesting that this is AEW that is hanging on to him, and Punk is already at the point where he's like, yeah, just let me go. I'm cool. I'm ready to move on to what's next. So we'll see what's next whenever that actually comes to fruition. Apparently somebody who's ready to move on to what's next is William Regal. SP3, this is a gentleman who has been heavily featured on AEW TV in the last few weeks. Cost Jon Moxley the AEW World title at Full Gear, seemingly aligning himself with MJF. And then this past week on Dynamite, MJF proved why you never make a deal with the devil, because the second you are no longer useful to said devil, he is going to knock your ass out because he don't need you anymore. That is the story that got told on Wednesday. And it's like the speculation immediately started surfacing. Oh, well, Regal seems like he's on his way out of AEW. Like, he just signed a contract. Apparently there is some truth to this, that he either had an out clause or his contract wasn't as long as people initially thought it was, which was 3 years at the get-go. But let's start with the actual contract news itself. When you look at what William Regal has done in AEW, heavily featured, has been a fantastic addition to the on-screen product. Now, with Papa H in charge over WWE, is ready to go back and be another member of his team. This is kind of surprising, but at the same time, I think the reason why it's surprising to me is the fact that his contract was so short, or he had this out clause and is able to go back to WWE.
Yeah, I think the real news of this story is what the contract was. Was it a 3-year deal? Was it a 1-year deal? Was it a contract that had an out if Triple H was ever to be back in power? You could go back to WWE, which I wouldn't put that out the realm of possibility, only because if you putting that in the contract, if you're Tony Khan and you're signing a contract in March that says that, you think that that's not a possible idea and not that it's going to happen in 4 freaking months. So
Yeah.
I could totally see that being the option. It was Fightful Select that reported that his contract is up in December. So that's very weird. That would mean he only signed a 9-month contract with the company, which seems very strange. So it's a lot of stuff that I think that we're going to learn more about as the weeks progress. And I think that William Regal is going to be back with, WWE with by January. I'd say January would be the latest that I see. I think that the way they wrote him off on AEW Dynamite immediately made me have the same thought. Made me think that, okay, this seems like a write-off. This seems like they are writing him off. They're using any heat that he got from Full Gear and putting it all on MJF. I thought that it made the choice at AEW Full Gear, yeah, confusing. So I understand the other report from Wrestling Observer Newsletter that there's those within AEW that are confused with the
Yeah.
booking decision to make William Regal, where it seemed like we were creating this new kind of Heyman Punk Callis Omega type partnership here with 2 great guys on the mic, and now it only lasted what, 10 days?
Yeah.
It just seems very weird.
Yeah, let's dive into that too as well, because that was the first question I got here on this bad boy.
It's time to answer the 5 count on the Bleav Podcast Network.
And by the way, the 9-month contract isn't as it's a weird length of time. Don't get me wrong, but we have seen Tony Khan sign people to short-term contracts, tryout contracts, per appearance contracts. I mean, Regal did get the graphic. Like he got the full blown. William Regal is here. He is here to stay. Everything is great. We love having William Regal. Blackpool Combat Club is set up for huge success. Going to have this major run. No. And like you said, you brought up the report today that there are some within AEW who are very, very confused by Tony Khan's decision to heavily feature William Regal in the days leading, knowing that he was getting ready to leave the company. Do you think Tony Khan necessarily made the right decision here with going with the full Regal? If let's just assume that was the best story going forward, because I did like the story. I liked how they set everything up. Everything that they did over the last 2 weeks really was good stuff. You had the whole interaction between Jon Moxley, where he basically gave him the Lion King, I want you to go away and never return, right? You had Bryan Danielson, who had to come out there first and really beg Jon Moxley not to hurt him. It seemed kind of like a little out of place. Like, why is Bryan Danielson out here like throwing all this stuff out there? But it really set the stage, talking about Regal's health issues, for what MJF did this Wednesday to show just how truly despicable he is, and thus sets up the next feud with Bryan Danielson. I thought everything that they did worked out masterfully. Did they telegraph the ending a little too much at Full Gear? Yeah, maybe a little bit. A lot of us saw it coming. Doesn't mean it wasn't bad. It was a quick 10 days, 2 week story. It was still really, really good. But knowing Regal was leaving, was that the right decision?
Yeah, I just don't know why you kind of set up Jon Moxley. Fans, as you saw on last week's Dynamite, they want to see Jon Moxley get revenge on William Regal for betraying him at Full Gear. And yes, I agree with you that I thought that was the best finish, the best possibility for the finish to put the title on MJF. So I'm not saying they were wrong in that part. They are wrong in the part that if that was the best finish, that should have been the finish if you know he's on his way out. Because that puts all the focus on him. That puts a measure of heat on him, not MJF. and thus Jon Moxley, one of your top baby faces, needs to get revenge on that. And then the way you close things off, he doesn't get revenge on that. And you had MJF turning back heel, more heel on another heel, when it could have been more effective if MJF, you found another way to put the title on MJF, and you had the same situation where you had them do a promo with each other like you did to set up the story, and then he hits him in the back of the head. Not him turn and align with MJF only to be betrayed again. Yes, it proves that MJF is the real devil because he betrayed the person that helped him give the title, so I like that. There's parts of this I like, but it just doesn't make too much sense if you know he's leaving. That focuses too much on him. That gets too much heat on him. I know they feel like they transferred a lot of that heat over to MJF, but I don't think so. I don't think not necessarily all the heat is on that. And I think it would have been more effective if they would have kept William Regal as a babyface and done the same angle that they did on Wednesday.
Yeah. I do agree with you and the other fans who wanted to see Jon Moxley get his revenge on William Regal, and I totally understand that. It's almost like that they took him out of the equation, and now like he's on the side quest of the game, right? Like he was the main character, and now all of a sudden, oh man, the big bad, he got me, but now I got to go do like these 4 or 5 other things before I can get back around to the big bad, which is now MJF. And well, we thought at the time William Regal anyway, and now Regal appears to be out of the equation. I don't hate what they're doing with Jon Moxley, though. I thought the setup between him and Hangman Adam Page was perfect this week, with Jon just saying, hey, do you even remember what happened the last time you stepped in with me? And then Hangman just freaking clocking him, and then, okay, away we go. Cool. We're going to do Hangman and Moxley. I'm fine with that. You want to do Danielson and MJF? I'm fine with that. Focusing heavily on William Regal, I guess, without knowing what the other creative options are or were. I think if I had known what the other options were, to all of them led to, at Full Gear, putting the championship on MJF. Without knowing what those other options were, it's difficult for me to tell. I'm going to say I have no issue with this because the story, how it progressed over the last 2 weeks, has been very, very good. It all made sense. It all worked. It sucks that William Regal is on his way out for AEW's perspective, but hey, they're leaving on good terms. Who knows what happens down the line? You never know in this crazy business. Just look at where we were, I don't know, when we started this podcast 11 months ago to where we are right now. It is absolutely insane. SP3, I'd play the music for you, but I don't want to get copyright struck, so I'll just your reaction to the Elite pulling within a game of the Death Triangle.
I wish I had my Black and Mild, Skip. I wish I had my Black and Mild, Skip. Where's my pack of dough, Skip? The Elite pulling out the game off of the key defensive play from Goat Omega up in this piece. All the haters was hating on Goat Omega going into game 3, and he pulled out the key defensive play. This man was on offense, being held, being fouled, as Matt Jackson was about to get the shot off, and then he held everybody back so Matt Jackson could get the wide open 3, pinning Pac 1, 2, 3 to get the Elite on the board. I thought the match was great. I like the fact that so far, 3 matches in, all 3 matches have been different. You had the kind of just a nuts, unreal kind of just spots everywhere matchup at Full Gear. Then last week you had the Elite play in the heels in Chicago with all the CM Punk callbacks and references. And then this week you just had the Elite on total sense of urgency and desperation, attacking the Death Triangle in their entranceway. Then the brawl off the stage with the dives off the stage and everything, brawling around the ring. Then once they got inside, it was just a whole bunch of big moves. And I love how it's playing out where a lot of key and signature offense for both sides really have not been hit, but especially for the Elite. The Young Bucks have yet to hit the Meltzer driver or the BTE trigger. Kenny Omega's yet to hit the One Wing Angel. So there's so much for them to still do in this series. So I'm enjoying the best of 7 so far.
Yeah, I was honestly a little surprised by this result because, as you and I talked about on Tuesday, right? I felt like the drama was there to have the Elite come back from an 0-3 hole. And you set it up for Winter is Coming to basically essentially have that be a championship match. So I'm a little surprised that Tony Khan decided to pull the trigger and book the Elite to win this one, to pull it within 2-1. Maybe going down 0-3 was a little bit too predictable, but this thing's going
Yeah.
to 7 anyway, right? Like, you're
But
not going to book
the thing is, we all know it's going to 7, but by the Elite winning this week, and I was wrong because I said Death Triangle was going to win, but by the Elite winning this week, now they've created the situation where we really don't know who's going to win these next 2 matches.
That's true.
We don't know who's going to win at Winter is Coming. If the Elite win there, then it's basically a new matchup, and then the last 3 basically it's a best of 3 it becomes. So I like that they made that move, even though it wasn't the move I was going for. I think it was the right move in the end.
I think the play here now, and I'm thinking about, what makes the best drama, like when you're talking about a best of 7 series, whether it's the MLB, the NBA. Nobody knows a best of 7 better than the NBA, and I'm not even an NBA fan, but regardless, I think the play here is to have the Elite get back up 2-2, and then you have that all-important Game 5. Whoever wins Game 5, boom, now you got your first elimination game, you got your first title match. Whoever probably pulls within even, and then you get the best thing in sports, a Game 7 next year, Elite Death Triangle. I think that's the move to make. So I would expect the Elite to win at Winter is Coming. One thing I didn't expect to see on my TV screen this week, SP3, at least, maybe I've been watching a lot of Wednesday, but I wasn't expecting a murder on my TV screen when professional wrestling was coming around. There's writing off a character like they did with William Regal. And then there's what they did to Eric Young on Impact this week. Just straight up stabbed the dude in the chest, and bye-bye. Yeah, there ain't no coming back from that one. That's straight out of Adam Cole's way, just flat out murdering a dude. So Eric Young is done in Impact Wrestling, and it wasn't long after the knife plunged into his heart that the reports came out from PW Insider and others that Eric Young is back on his way to WWE, and he will be there very shortly. And then I as soon as I saw that report, I remembered the fact that both Killian Dane and Alexander Wolf, I'm calling them by their WWE names, people who know them better, have been tagging with each other on the indies. You had Killian Dane put out a tweet that says, hey, maybe we should tag together more often. You already have Crazy Nikki Cross, who's back to her NXT days. I'm thinking the writing on the wall here is that Sanity is coming back to WWE. Am I crazy?
No, that's exactly what I thought, because I was like, when I saw the segment on Impact, I didn't watch the full episode of Impact. I turned to it for a really, really damn good Mickie James versus Deonna Purrazzo match, which you should definitely go out of your way to see. And then Jordan Grace challenging Mickie for Hard to Kill in January. And then I thought the show was over. And then they just cut to the scene. It's the usual Violent by Design scene. They usually do these scenes where Eric Young is basically interrogating a member of Violent by Design to get rid of the sickness. And by watching Impact Wrestling, I believe the sickness is losing. Because that's what, anytime he does this, it's after one of his guys loses. So the sickness is losing. So Eric Young lost a big match to Sami Callihan a few weeks back. And the show ended with the 3 members of Violent by Design that have been revealed, which is Diener, who's been a long time member, the newest members, which is Alan Angels, who used to be of the Dark Order in AEW, and Khan, who used to be Connor in the Ascension in WWE NXT. They're all a part of Violent by Design, but Diener's always kind of been the number 2 of Eric Young. So it was kind of them across the room for each other. They had a knife in the middle of the interrogation table, and then they just start fighting over the knife. And I'm like, are they really doing a shanking segment? Are they about to shank each other? And then like Diener beats the crap out of Eric Young, and Eric Young tells him, he was like, you must get rid of the sickness. He was like, I created design, but you are the design. So you must do what you have to do. And he picks up the shank and he stabs Eric Young. And this wasn't the most surprising thing. because this is Impact Wrestling, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't watched Impact Wrestling before, they had a wedding where Johnny Bravo got shot in the heart. They had Allie go to the dark realm and she got stabbed in her throat before miraculously recovering and going to AEW. They've had Taya Valkyrie go to jail, and that jail was called NXT and Frankie Monet. So they've done a lot of wacky. They had Mickey James back in the day. She got hit by a train. So I think Eric Young can come back. Mickey James got hit by a train and she came back and won the Knockouts World Championship. So Eric Young, I think the only way he's going back to WWE would be with Sanity, because there's really nothing for him to do. We saw how well he did the first time. Yes, that was under Vince McMahon, but even under Triple H, he didn't really do a lot with just Eric Young. It was more about the Sanity group. They won NXT tag team titles and got over as one of the main stables in NXT off of them as a unit, not at Eric Young alone. So I think if he's going back and the idea is to bring back Sanity, I think that is a good idea. And that fits in what they're doing on the main roster, which is a lot of Gato booking. Because it's not Tony Khan. I know a lot of people like to say AEW has a lot of stables. AEW just stole the formula from Gato of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Everyone in New Japan is in a stable, and I think WWE is going to that now, as we've seen. Everybody's grouping up. Everybody's in their particular stable, and he's going to bring back a new one, Insanity.
Would you put them on Raw or SmackDown?
SmackDown needs something, man. So again, they failed the first time with Sanity there. They might as well try again. Plus Nikki on the SmackDown Women's Division seems a lot more feasible for her to get to the top there than it will on Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, look, I thought I was excited when they brought the group up. I liked what they did in NXT, and then inexplicably they brought them up without Nikki, and then something was just missing. And I think, I think it was basically Vince burying 101. Like they lost their first couple of matches and then they were taking off.
They lost a Falls Count Anywhere handicap match to The Miz.
Yeah.
And that was because they literally, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I want to shout them out correctly. I Bleav it was Parts Unknown, Russell Talk guys did a countdown of moments when someone's push was dead. And that was the moment they chose for Sanity, is them losing a Falls Count Anywhere handicap match to The Miz.
Yeah. Queen saying, I'm loving all these factions in WWE. It is so fun. Look, I'm with you. I like the new groups. I like the groups that are being put together. I think, man, you look at Sanity and then you look at, if you make them baby faces, you could bring them back on either Raw or SmackDown, put them up against Judgment Day, or you could put them up against Legado del Fantasma. There are counter groups that they could go with, and I'm all for adding new people to the tag team division. The Usos got to have people to wrestle that they haven't wrestled before.
Yeah. And another thing that's a great thing about like stables and faction, and when I said that it's still in the Gato booking, I'm not saying that like it's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing that Gato does that, because you can literally, for me as a New Japan fan, you can literally show me a wrestler and I know what stable they're a part of. It's kind of like being an NBA fan. If you show me a player, 9 times out of 10, I know what team they're going to be on. But that doesn't mean that they can't be an individual, star on their own, despite being in a stable. All it really does is create future feuds, really, because they have that association. They've been in a group together, and if the group gets over, you are making stars in the process. We are still living in the after effects of the Shield breakup. We're still in the middle of the breakup of the friendship of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens that started 8 years ago in NXT. We're still seeing it in our eyes, like stables, partnerships. It creates some of the best stories in wrestling. You need that connection with each other. So I think WWE going in the direction of what New Japan and AEW have been doing over the last couple of things is a great thing that Triple H has taken from those two promotions.
Yeah, and look, if you do this, then you can maybe move forward with some plans that have been rumored to be in the works for a while now. You look at two guys right now who aren't being, I know they just came back, but it's not like they were heavily featured in the tag team division, but you still say they needed to be involved in the tag team division because of the lack of depth. But now maybe you could do something with Montez Ford as a single star. Maybe you could do something with Angelo Dawkins as a single star if you have a deeper bench as far as the tag team division is going, and you're starting to get that. I would be all for Sanity coming back. I would love to see what they can do.
To take the time to get them over. You can't just bring back tag teams though, because WWE, if you write it down on paper, they got a lot of tag teams right now. Do they use any of them effectively? I would say you can count the teams that are actually over on one hand.
And that
Usos, Street Profits, New Day, Judgment Day. That's it.
I'm liking what I've seen so far from the Viking Raiders, but they're
not over though.
They're not over, and that's the thing is you have brought back so many. You have so many new talents on this roster right now. None of them are over. It's going to take time. We're in this very awkward transition phase where you're bringing back so many different people. And yeah, the hardcore wrestling fans know who they are and appreciate who they are. But you still have main roster people who are trying to figure out who Io Sky and Dakota Kai are. And those were the first two people you brought up to the main roster of the Triple H regime. So now you're bringing in people like Hit Row and Karrion Kross and all these others. It is going to take time. And that's where I believe Triple H is going to be patient, is sooner or later, some of these acts are going to start to get over. But this is the problem that he's running into, too, is you're trying to establish so many different groups and so many different new talent. You can't push them all at once.
I think some people are going to be like, man, maybe I should have waited longer before I re-signed. Someone like Karrion Kross, I would definitely be having that thought at this point. Because, like, I know he was on TV maybe 2 weeks ago, but that feels like a long time ago, and that wasn't anything. They set up a feud with him and Scarlett versus Emma and Madcap Moss. He's not in the best position.
The last time we saw him, he was talking with the Usos saying, hey, look, when I decide to come after Roman, those titles are mine. Which tells you they got some long-term plans in effect for him, but right now, yeah, he's just kind of chilling. Was Emma even on TV last week? They just brought her back, and she's had, I think one match, and then
two backstage segments
that she's infatuated with Madcap Moss, and they haven't even explained that they're dating in real life. Like, that would be a very simple, hey, these guys are a couple. Didn't even give us that. One guy who is heavily featured every week, still hasn't had a match, but he's still heavily featured every week, is Bray Wyatt. And we didn't get a chance to talk about this on Tuesday. This is a report that came out earlier this week. WWE apparently working on a new match. This is something they've been doing a lot of recently. We got the Iron Challenge that's going to be happening at NXT Deadline next week. I still have no idea what the hell that is.
Convoluted as hell.
I have no idea what it is.
They took the championship scramble, mixed it with King of the Mountain. Oh man, mixed it with the Iron Man match. Like, I was like, okay, that's confusing.
It's confusing, but I believe I hate making announcements until it's officially official, but I do believe I'll be talking to Carmelo Hayes next week about said match here on Bleav in Pro Wrestling. So make sure to check that out if and when that gets fully confirmed. I keep looking at my phone waiting for the confirmation text, but I'm working on that as we speak. But WWE probably working on a new match for Bray Wyatt. I have no clue what a pitch black match is, SP3, but I am highly concerned because they have a history of obstructing Bray Wyatt matches and making them unwatchable because of the ambience of the room, of the ring. Difficult, probably fine live in person, difficult to follow on television. And now you're talking about a pitch black match. I have concerns, SP3. I have concerns.
I'm good, y'all. I'm gonna bow out respectfully if this does happen. I'm just gonna be like, Rick, I'm good. I'm not gonna talk about it. I'm just gonna get away from this because this does not sound very good. This does not sound good. And Queen Moan saying that she hopes it's like the Tiffany and Wendy lights out match. That wound up being a fun match, but the worst thing about it was the lights not being on. That was the worst thing. That would have been a great match if the lights were actually on, but it was a good match because the lights stopped it from being great. It's like no, I'm good. I'm good. We've already had problems with Bray Wyatt matches, and the light. We had the red light during the Fiend era. That was horrible. And anything that has to do with light in any way, or a match that's named after a lights, I'm good.
It is a great idea on paper, but when you're talking about a nationally televised show, and granted, I watched a Fiend match in person with the red light. Wasn't that difficult to follow what's going on, but your product, the majority of your audience, is on television. Messing with lighting on television is a terrible, terrible idea. So I'm hoping that whatever pitch black is, it's more metaphorical than it is literal. Let's not have a match in the dark. That's about what I'm going to say. SP3, you brought up your girl Ronda Rousey earlier. Apparently, her Royal Rumble opponent is set in stone, reportedly anyway. And it's a good thing that the Royal Rumble is 8 weeks away, because the woman that she is going to be facing at the Royal Rumble is the same woman that she apparently broke her arm and then dislocated her elbow on SmackDown in Raquel Rodriguez, which might or might not mean that we're not going to get any new additions into the SmackDown Women's division anytime soon, whether it be Sasha Banks, Naomi, or the person we all assumed would have shown up by now ahead of WrestleMania season, Charlotte Flair. So I'll ask you, with the report that Ronda Rousey and Raquel Rodriguez is set for the Royal Rumble, do we see Charlotte Flair on TV prior to the Royal Rumble? She has been teasing a return on social media, or she could just be putting up pictures of boots. Who knows?
I think she returns in the Royal Rumble. I would say in the Royal Rumble is the best place for her to return with what's going on Monday Night Raw. I think that if she does return, the best place for her is actually on Monday Night Raw, because there's a lot of people that she hasn't feuded with in a while, and a lot of people she hasn't feuded with at all. So I think that's the best place for her. Putting her back on the SmackDown Women's division, yeah, it adds one other star to go along with Ronda Rousey on there, but I've seen Ronda in Charlotte ad nauseum. I'm good on that. Cause I don't want, that doesn't solve the issue. The issue here is that Ronda doesn't have matches for her, and Charlotte versus anyone else over on the SmackDown roster outside of like Raquel, I'm good on. I don't want to see. I'm not fiending to see Charlotte versus Liv. I'm not fiending to see Charlotte versus Shotzi. I'm not fiending to see Charlotte versus Natalya again. Not fiending to see Charlotte versus Sonya. Not fiending to see Charlotte versus Lacey again. I'm good on all of that.
Please keep Charlotte and Lacey away from each other, please.
Outside of Charlotte and Raquel, there's no matches on SmackDown that I want to see from Charlotte Flair. So
I know you don't care about it. I still want to see, Liv Morgan try to tackle her white whale.
They're only the biggest Liv Morgan fans only care about that, and all 6 of you, I want to tell y'all, we have 3 million other fans to think about here. No one wants to waste time with that. That's not important enough for Charlotte to be on the SmackDown roster for up until after WrestleMania. If she's coming back before the Royal Rumble, we want to deal with 4 months of her versus Sonya and versus Natalya and versus Lacey just so we could get Charlotte versus Liv. Oh my God. I can't wait to see that 2-star match. It's going to be great. The best 2-star match I've ever seen in my life. No, Charlotte needs to be on Raw.
Underestimate Liv Morgan's abilities inside the ring. I think those two could put on a really good match.
I mean, Liv Morgan, I've never seen put on a 4-star match. So I think I'm being generous by saying her and Charlotte will be one of the best 2-star matches I've ever seen. So congratulations for that. But Charlotte Flair needs to be on Raw. That's a better option for her. Her versus Bianca Belair feels like the type of WrestleMania matchup. If they didn't want to go in the direction of Rhea Ripley, maybe wanted to do Rhea versus Beth at WrestleMania, they could do Bianca versus Charlotte. But all of that notwithstanding, I think Charlotte should come back at the Royal Rumble, not prior.
Let's see. Queen saying hopefully Charlotte does not win the Royal Rumble because that would suck again. Right now, Charlotte's got to be one of the top 3 options for the Women's Royal Rumble. I mean, it's Rhea, Becky, Charlotte. I think that would be my top 3 favorites right now.
And then the dark horse would be Sasha. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who on the Raw roster? Well, let me just read the lineup of the Women's War Games, Queen Moan. Outside of Bianca Belair, Charlotte Flair has not really feuded with Io Sky or Dakota Kai or this version of Nikki Cross. She's never really feuded with or faced. This version of Rhea Ripley, she's never really feuded or faced, and Rhea still has unfinished business with her. We won't do Becky Lynch. I think I'm over that. Let's move on from that. Mia Yim. Mia Yim is another one. It's been a while with her and Asuka, but we can move on from that. Alexa Bliss is another one that she really hasn't feuded with and still has unfinished business with her.
Yeah.
I named about 7 out of the 10 people in the Women's War Games. So if it was hard for you to think of the Raw roster has a lot more options than the SmackDown roster.
Yeah, like Alexa Bliss was like the first name that I thought of because I'm like, they wrote off Alexa Bliss at Extreme Rules in Columbus when she lost to Charlotte, and then Charlotte turned her beloved doll into a pile of cotton, and then Alexa just came back and was like, oh, everything's fine. I don't really care about that. Charlotte should have been the first damn person that she lined up in her sights, and yet here we are in December. We still have no character development for Alexa Bliss. They are slow playing the hell out of whatever is going on between her and Bray Wyatt. So if you move Alexa over to SmackDown to be one of your top level baby faces and you bring Charlotte back over to SmackDown, then that makes it a little bit better. But yes, as you said, basically laid it out there are more options for her, people we have not seen her face over on Raw. And of course, Bianca Belair is there. You got people backstage who are pushing heavily for Rhea Ripley to face Bianca Belair. I would not be surprised, though, if we end up with that classic women's triple threat match at WrestleMania where they do Bianca, Rhea, and Charlotte.
I wouldn't be surprised either, but I think this year they should definitely go with Bianca versus one or the other. I would definitely go with Rhea Ripley because it says more of a statement about this new regime than doing Charlotte Flair, and I feel like Charlotte Flair is a big enough name. You can give her own match at WrestleMania that doesn't need to involve a championship at all. She's that big of a name, and if you do 2 singles matches for the women's championships and you do a tag team matchup, you have room for one more women's match in there, and Charlotte versus anyone feels like a big enough matchup.
Yeah, 100%. Could not agree more. We appreciate everybody who is tuned in today. Make sure to hammer that thumbs up button. Make sure to hammer that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. We really appreciate all your guys' support. Got SmackDown tonight, got Rampage tonight, got Raw on Monday. Man, no pay-per-view this week. What are we going to do? Excuse me, no pay-per-view, no premium live event. My goodness, what are we going to do, SP3? Hopefully there's something.
Spend time with your families.
There's that.
And wash your ass.
Watch football. That's what I'm going to do all weekend long.
And wash your ass.
I can't think of a better way to close it out than that right there. Bleav in Pro Wrestling Podcast brought to you guys by Bet Online. Take care. Enjoy your weekend, everybody.